Hello.
What's up, Carla?
What's up, Chris? How are you?
Another new background for you.
Yes. I am in DC today, one of my favorite cities, of course, because I lived here, but I just love it. Um, yeah, I'm here with the special guest that we'll bring on shortly. How are
Uh,
you?
I'm good. I mean, we sort of mentioned before the show. I have we talked to well, we talked about FOMO with some other guests. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I also used to live in DC,
I know.
and I am jealous that you're there. So that's fantastic. What part of town are you in?
Right now, I am in Southeast by the Navy Yard,
Okay.
which is actually not far from where I used to live, a few blocks down in
Oh,
Southwest. Well, yeah.
getting to know you a little bit, Carla.
Yes.
Why don't we instead, because I think our viewers know you plenty well, let's
Yes.
get to
Let's
know our guest today.
Perfect. So our guest today is JuDonn DeShields. Let me edit this name actually because I think it's important. Welcome, JuDonn. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, Carla. Hey, Chris. Good to
Good
see
morning, JuDonn.
Cool.
There you go. It's official.
So this is actually the first time that I'm meeting JuDonn in person. We met virtually during our Books with Brothers series.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And obviously before we were getting to know each other, and I think one thing that stood out in the way that we've connected is so many I guess connections that we've had. So you joined the network in Philly, right?
That's right.
And so can you tell me a little bit about your origin with our org?
Absolutely. So I started teaching in '08 in a charter school here in DC. And I love teaching. I love connecting with young people, but I really didn't like how everything was geared towards like preparing young people for this test. So I taught middle school at the time, and my young people were like, "Hey, we love you on the basketball court when you're our coach after school, but not in the classroom when all you talk about is testing." So I set out to I said, you know what, I want to remain in education, but there's got to be something that does this differently, like in a way that aligns with my passions as a coach, as a camp counselor, as all of these ways that I connected with young people previously, and still in ways that like got them to a better place in terms of education, but just holistically. So found out about Big Picture Learning, learned that they had just opened 2 schools in Philadelphia, and at the time reached out to Jen Gaddu with my application, like, hey, hire me because otherwise I'm not going to teach anywhere else. And found El Centro, which became my school home.
That's amazing. That connection to Philly, and then just kind of like the work that you did with young people, having that based on, and you were an advisor from talking to you, and as well as a principal, right?
Right.
And so now you're in DC. How did that transition, or at least the experience that you had in a big picture school, leading a big picture school, how did that support the work that you're doing now?
Right on. So, being a principal is incredibly humbling. It's one of the most challenging and rewarding jobs I've ever had. But at a certain point, I really asked myself, like, at what scale do I want my impact to be at? So as you learn things about leading folks, about change management, about project-based learning, about advisory, like all the wonderful things about our organization, you start to think like, how much further do I want to scale this out? And I thought like bringing this to districts and bringing this to other school communities to not replicate, but embody the ethos of this work was really important to me. So try to step out into district level work, kept getting like rejection after rejection. In short, folks were like, we don't know you. We don't know your work. We don't know what you've done. And that was a reminder, like networking is really important. But DCPS said, we'd love to have you on our leadership development team, which to me was like a perfect inroad to say, I've been a leader before, but I really want to help other people develop their leadership chops all the same. So landed on a wonderful team here in DCPS doing leadership development work. And transitioned into an instructional superintendent role where I have the privilege of serving 2 schools who remind me a lot of El Centro, especially in their model and the way that they try to serve young people.
And I'm guessing those 2 schools are the ones that we talked about? Yes.
Yep.
So one of the cool connections that we made is prior to joining Big Picture, I worked for another nonprofit at Ballou High School, which was one of the schools that JuDonn was mentioning. So just think about how small our world is really fascinating.
Yeah.
Chris, do you have any questions?
I do have a question, but I feel like a lot of times my my job is to like pick up a thread and like pull it through a little bit, right? So I
Mhm.
heard you mention Books with Brothers with JuDonn, and I just want to let folks know that, about a year and a half ago, we started this series where we invited educators of color, particularly male educators, to read books at a time when I think we needed to just spread more joy. I don't know what it is about the algorithm. Maybe JuDonn, you're just a really cool guy. Your reading is one of our most viewed. So congratulations, I guess.
Yeah.
It was probably my mom.
You read I Am Every,
Multiple clicks.
yeah, you read I Am Every Good Thing by Derek Barnes. So I just point folks to our YouTube page and check out JuDonn and other folks reading. So my question, JuDonn, we've talked about this, is like when I started with Big Picture almost 8 years ago, one of the first places I went was the regional director school design coaches meeting in Eagle Rock, Colorado, which is where you and I met. And that meeting was so formative for me because I myself was still getting to know what and who is Big Picture. So you're at the core, sort of like the molten lava of like the people who shaped who I became within Big Picture. You already mentioned Jennifer Gaddu. Like, who were some of the other folks where, like, when you first joined some of the Philly schools, like, who were the people that sort of shot you on your current trajectory?
Yeah, it's funny because in the chat, Laura Davis, who was my first principal at El Centro, and a pioneering principal, like moved from Tennessee, from Nashville all the way up to Philly, to do this work and to serve young people who, needed something different. So hey, Laura, so good to see you. Elliot, so Elliot being one of those people who will take the time to talk to you no matter who you are. You could be the president, you could be someone who is just a random person on the street. He'll take the time to talk to you. Andrew, Carlos, so many people, like so many of my fellow coaches, Patrick, Eunice, Javier, like so many good folks that developing community around, learning from, and then like folks at El Centro, at Vox, obviously, David, Matt, Helen, all my advisor folks that I go way back with, Nina, Doug, a whole host of just good people who have done this work, Steph, Joe. I can go on and on, but all that to say is like the network is grounded in so many good people that care about advancing education in a way that meaningfully serves young people. And I think that there's no hierarchy in Big Picture for me. Like I just stepped in and just like found a whole lot of love with a whole lot of people and a whole lot of guidance too.
I have found that in a lot of these discussions that Carla and I have, if you're inside Big Picture, a lot of the people we work with are like Cher and Madonna, right? You're saying like Elliot and David and like Joe, and I know instantly like who you're talking about, but those are just like people's names, right? So like get inside the circle, like find out who these folks are, because all the same people that you mentioned just like reside right here. So thanks. Back to you, Carla.
Yes. Is there anything you want to, anything exciting you're working on, anything you want to highlight? Obviously the show's also about like you, what are you doing? What do you want to highlight and share with our audience?
Yep. I think some of the same excitement that I found when I found Big Picture is now spreading. And I think it's long past due. We found over the course of the pandemic, like that schools weren't serving young people well. We're still so attracted to this factory model of education where we dump knowledge into your heads and we expect you to come out 12, 13 years later ready for the real world. And I think after the pandemic, folks are starting to see that we need to do things differently. Like we need to be more situated in the real world, more situated in community, and realistic about helping our young people pursue their passions and interests day to day. So I want to celebrate that work in DCPS started a few years ago through a redesign process with Anacostia and Ballou High School. If you go to our website, you can search Design Lab and or redesign to just learn about their processes. They were grounded in community. So they had to meet with a multitude of stakeholders outside of the school walls, inside the school walls, and ultimately get student and staff voice on what they wanted to see for their school experience. They then committed to that. So Anacostia High School took on project-based learning. They took on a dream team model, which is very similar to advisory and having adult champions in a young person's corner. And Ballou is focusing on a similar model, but also does like a 3D case study design, which is also really similar to project-based learning. So I share all that to say, like, I feel like nationally in certain pockets, we're moving in directions that big picture has been in for the last 20 years. And I think we stand in a place of, where we've been in the network, whether, we're still there or in other places where we can support, coach, sustain that work, knowing the power of it and knowing that it needs to spread further.
And as Big Picture's communications head, I should point out, we've been doing this for almost 30 years now. Just saying.
Oh, wait, never mind. Sorry. I was like, wait, what? Yes, thank you so much. I've actually, when I worked at Baloo, I was seeing kind of like that redesign process happening. And so, and a lot of the, I guess like structures of it, I was like, this is so similar to Big Picture. And I was like, and in a way, then I came back to the family. But JuDonn, I do want to thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you for hosting. We needed a space.
And it's just great to plug back in. Miss everyone in the network. So hoping to catch you all at the next conference, ideally leadership conference this winter. Always good to see you, Chris. Thanks for wearing my favorite shirt again.
You bet.
I got to find it. I think I gave it to my wife.
Make sure you get the new one too.
Right on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me.
Carly, you and I are never shy about talking about behind the scenes, right? So I just want to say, like, we reached out to JuDonn yesterday.
I know.
And was like, Carla's going to be in town. And
yeah,
JuDonn,
thank you so much.
Thank you for like allowing us into your space and being so receptive.
Yeah, that was so last minute. And then also Laura's comment, that was the first time I think I've ever seen something so like, that was really cool. For you to highlight that, that is so awesome.
I think we had one by like Taylor Harper once, so I was able to put one up. But like, folks, comment in real time. We'll get you up there.
Exactly. Okay, so Thursday. I'm like, weekend coming up. I'm excited. I'm probably gonna share a few tweets, hopefully, about what we have in store today in DC. But other than that, any closing?
No, I would just want to plug next week. I think we have Big Picture staff who are going to be at the ISTE conference. Sure. And I won't be on Monday, but I believe you are planning to drop in on that conference virtually and talk to some of the folks there. Yes.
Do we have any deadlines coming up or any announcements?
Sure. The registration for Big Bang closes on July 6th. So go to bplevents.org. Even though registration closes in about a couple weeks, I think I've heard recently that there's only 25 to 50 hotel rooms left. Mm-hmm. So you also want to jump on your lodging if you plan to attend. Thanks for the cue.
For sure. And with that, I hope you make it a great day or not. The choice is yours, and we'll see you all on Monday.